anything like covered in
Yeah,
sugar.
yeah. Well, I've just recently given up. Well, I gave up sugar cake on Boxing Day. And
In the podcast, you only said two of those things. Hi, and welcome to another edition of This Is an Ambitious Podcast with myself and Bez.
How we
Hi,
doing?
Bez. How you doing? This podcast is all about the most ambitious people in the marketing and advertising world, sharing their stories of their brands and a bit of personal stories as well. This week, we're talking to Kirsten Pugsley, who is the marketing director at PUMA. Previously, she was working at Go Sport in Qatar and Dubai, New Balance, Reebok, and Adidas. So there's like a theme there.
Yeah, no, with all the top brands.
What are your sport brand preferences?
Well, you know what? When there was a kid growing up, before the big trainer explosion came along.
Yeah.
Yeah, and before JD Sports and all that, and
Yeah.
trainers were like the thing. And you couldn't just walk in and buy your trainers. So we used to have to go to this place in the underground market, Oasis,
Yeah.
get the Adidas catalogue,
Yeah.
look at all the trainers you had, order your trainers, have to wait for 2 weeks for your trainers to arrive. Imagine that.
Yeah,
And
crazy.
things have changed so much since then.
You can get it on the same day now.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
changed so
And
much.
as a kid growing up, my first involvement in sportswear was through football.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of my favourite pair of boots of all time just so happens to be, the Puma brand.
Yeah.
Puma
Kings.
Puma Kings, yeah,
Iconic.
they were the
Yeah.
boots of the.
Iconic, still iconic.
They
now.
are.
yeah.
Yeah, some players are wearing them again, aren't they?
Yeah.
Bring them back. Buy them retro and wear them again.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we'll crack on. Hi, Kirsten.
Hello.
Welcome. Did you have been on a podcast with Bez on your 26 bingo card?
Absolutely not. One icon, by the way. Manchester icon, but UK
Yeah.
icon as well.
Not often I get called an icon.
Well, you do.
Many
for me,
other
so,
things I've
many
been
people in
called,
the
but an
office.
icon is not one of them.
I think you are. But no, it was a surprise when I got the email in the inbox, but something that I
Oh,
couldn't
well,
turn down.
well, thank you
Sure.
so much for coming along. Just getting into a little bit about your career would be really interesting. So it's obviously you've worked, it feels like most of the brands in the sports sector are solely like
The judgment.
so many of like the big iconic brands, and you've worked all around the world as well. When you started out, was your ambition to work in the sport world? Was it to travel? What
Yeah, I
got
mean,
it going?
definitely my career path is quite intentional in the sports industry. Grew up loving sport, playing sport, despite being from a very small town in Devon. It was kind of my world. My older brother played football with his
Really?
friends and things like that. So it was definitely an intention. And then when I went to university, I chose to study sport because it was something I was interested in. I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I thought, you know what, let me do what I enjoy and then figure it out. And then whilst I was at uni in Liverpool, I also worked in the Adidas store,
Right.
kind of part-time.
Yeah.
And then, worked my way up into the head office, working for the Reebok brand because they were in the same office in
Right.
Stockport. And then, got the opportunity to move to the Middle East. And I thought the opportunity to work abroad had passed me by because I had different personal circumstances just prior to that.
Yeah.
Those changed, and then the opportunity came up, and I thought, gosh, if I don't do it now, then...
Did you go looking for that opportunity? Or
No,
was
it actually came to me.
Yeah.
I was exploring working potentially because I was with New Balance at the time, who are
Right.
based in Warrington. I was exploring moving to Boston with them. And
Wow.
then,
Yeah.
funnily enough, at the exact time of having that conversation with the global team, I had a message on my phone from someone I'd worked with previously. He was at DW Sports beforehand.
Yeah.
And saying, do you want to come over to Dubai and head up the marketing team? And I
Amazing.
thought, why not?
Well, and who was that with? Was that with New Balance? Was it?
No, so this was with a group of sports retailers that are Qatari owned, but based in Dubai.
Right.
So they look after a brand called Go Sport, and they had a French retailer out there as well, more on like a JD Sports equivalent, and then the NBA as well. So I had the opportunity to work with some NBA legends. So my
Amazing.
career just
Wow, brilliant.
blew up.
And culturally, was that like was there a lot of learnings from the UK, or was it a completely alien?
Learnings from the sports industry to bring to, because at the time it was a little bit further behind, and you'd see trends move a bit slower. So I could bring that knowledge. But learning new kind of cultures, and not only just from the Middle East, but the people that had also migrated there from other countries. I had gosh, 6 or 7 different nationalities in my team, and different sensitivities, different types of personalities. I'm sure, Bez, you've experienced that on your world tours and
Well,
things. But
that's a great thing about Dubai as well, isn't it? Because it is such a melting pot
it
of
is.
cultures
Yeah.
and and businesses as well,
Yeah,
because they all
absolutely.
seem to wed there, don't
Yeah,
they,
it
these
does.
days?
Yeah, absolutely.
Have Monday's been to Dubai.
Yeah, well, you say Dubai, I say hello.
There's another trailer for that. So what brought you back to the tropical wonderland that is Manchester?
You know what? I was ready kind of mindset wise. I'd done 5.5 years in the Middle East, but I also wanted to be closer to family as well. And that's what they're down in Devon, like I said, but it's much closer than jumping on an 8-hour plane. So I can jump in the car now instead. My kind of motivation is more of a personal thing
Yeah.
as opposed to a career moment, but
Yeah.
happened to also land a
Yeah.
really, positive role at
Amazing
PUMA
role.
as well at the
Yeah,
same
great.
time.
So what are your ambitions? What are you hoping for PUMA to become? What are you hoping to fulfill in your career at PUMA?
Yeah, so I'd love to drive the brand to where it naturally belongs in that, we spoke about some of the major players at the minute. Kind of retain its top spot,
Yeah.
as every brand probably has those aspirations, but not just from a financial perspective, but culturally as well. Make sure we're ingrained within those right cultures. And I'd hope to look back in a few years' time and, I did a similar thing with New Balance, not me personally driving that, but as a contributing factor to as part of a team that grew a brand into what it is today.
So in terms of like the cultural side and the sporting side,
Yeah.
what's the most potent world for you guys to be, and what do you see the biggest?
I think first and foremost, we're a sports brand.
Yeah.
So that's where our DNA kind of will come through. But then it's about tapping into those right moments, like I said, culturally.
Well, it's a fashion thing as well, isn't it, the sports
Absolutely.
brand,
It's they
especially
merge.
amongst teenagers.
Yeah.
They love the sportswear, don't they?
Yeah, and it's important to show that you understand them as well. I think, we spoke about, competitiveness and things like that, but showing that you are relevant to them, but also showing up where they are and where, where their communities are and meeting them there as opposed to expecting them to come to you. I think that's what brands are starting to really understand what they need to do now, because the consumer is far less fickle than it used to be. They're really difficult to sell to now. You've got to really show that you understand them.
Yeah. What's your perception of PUMA?
Well, I say my first ever experience with Puma, and when I first got my pair of Puma Kings, you know what I mean? I thought it was the bee's knees, you know what I mean? I can't tell you how good the boots made me feel. I actually even think they might have made me play better as well.
You'd
But I
like to
don't.
think so.
Yeah,
You know what they
yeah.
say, look good to play good. That's the
Like the sports industry, like you say, you like predominantly it's based on sport, but also there's like the fashion, the music thing, what's grown up around sportswear as well. So culturally, it's important to like the youth, I think.
Yeah.
And like you say, if you can tap into the youth, and I think what you said there is making actual contact with them, and it actually impressing them at a one-to-one level is where you're going to win new customers.
And when you think about the next generation as well, some of them will be experiencing our brand for the first time. So it's really, like I said, it's really important. That's where I find it exciting because, Puma's got a huge heritage and, there's lots of people, you already know the brand, you're familiar with it, but unlocking that potential with the next generation consumer is where that's what I find quite exciting.
When you're your creative endeavors of advertising the Puma brand, even like the product innovation, is it about, do you think, giving the consumer what they want, or do you think it's about perhaps telling them what they need and innovating and inventing?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture. Like I said, it's mostly about relevance and how they resonate with you as a brand, but I think it's about potentially either solving a problem for them that they didn't know they had, or making them better. As you mentioned about you felt like it made you better. Ultimately, we're providing things for athletes, and that's what is going to give you that extra edge. And the athlete is constantly looking for how, whatever level, you could be an athlete and be running a Hampshire 5K, or you could be in the Olympics. But what are we going to provide for them that's going to make them have that extra edge? And that's where that competitiveness comes in with the other brands as well, of constantly trying to outdo each other, but make it better for the consumer ultimately.
Yeah.
So whereas I think it may be slightly different on the music side. I don't know how you feel about it, Bez, but if it was me, and I'm not professing to be a musician, but I would far rather make something that meant something to me first and foremost, and then hopefully I'd have an engaged captive audience. But
Yeah,
is that
well, the main thing that I always say, first of all, you can't do these things so much. You got to do it because you love it. You know what I mean? And it's part of your DNA. You know what I mean? So in that respect,
yeah,
it's through the love of doing what you do.
yeah.
Do you think sports brands compared to other brands, there's like a bit more needle in it? There's a bit more, you guys want to outdo, I don't know, Adidas, Castell, whoever.
I think it's competitive, but I
Yeah.
think it's more competitive in terms of making sure that we're constantly elevating, not necessarily versus other brands.
Yeah.
It's healthy to have that competition, I think, because it's only going to make you better. And like I said, similar on the athlete side, it's healthy to have that, because then you can look to it and think, gosh, what is going to make me better? Is it that, speaking to a mental health coach, or, a psychotherapist, or is it a different pair of trainers that's going to give me the edge?
Or a certain mix of rubber sole.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you can
What's that
convince
tiny...
somebody. I remember when Adidas did it with the Predator boots. You know what I mean? That was like pure gimmick with the soles and all that. And coming up,
I always thought that may be slightly better, like 1% better.
And that's it. Is it a
Yeah.
mental thing? But I guess it doesn't matter.
It's a
but
mental
it doesn't
thing. It's a
matter, does it?
gimmick.
Yeah.
We need to do a Bez Puma range.
Can you imagine what a collab?
Well,
Yeah, yeah.
there you
But
go.
yeah, just to go back to the question, I think it will elevate ourselves from a product perspective. Absolutely. We're all about innovation, but then even from a marketing and, like I said, how we show that we're relevant to a consumer, that's where that edge comes in. And, there's all sorts of different tactics now that
Okay.
brands
I need a
utilise.
pair of leather sole Pumas so I can slide across the
Okay.
dance floor really
Okay.
good.
Yeah.
Imagine
Got
them
you.
ones.
I'm on it.
So Kirsten, you're like really driven and ambitious, and you've taken opportunities as they've come to you. It's always really interesting within doing this podcast of talking actually about what you've maybe failed at or what hasn't gone well,
How
because
long have we
usually
got?
that tend to be the biggest lessons.
Well, 100%, yeah. And without wanting to sound like a cliche, I do think it's important, and maybe not to use the word failure, but to sometimes take a different path, because you learn from a different way and a different route, and because you might discover different things along the way. Yeah, I mean, I can speak to an example where, the project necessarily didn't fail. I think it actually succeeded in the end, but I'm a bit of a creature of habit of taking on too much, and I'm healthily delegating, but there was an instance where I felt compelled to take certain things on myself. It got to the point, and it was a contributing factor. I won't say it was the only reason, but to me being physically unwell.
Oh wow.
And it gave me a different perspective on taking time off and practicing what I preach, because I'm good at telling my team to take their annual leave and take their rest days when they've worked or if they've been particularly busy, but I didn't listen to myself on that occasion. And whilst it wasn't a failure of a project, it was a failure of myself. Not to go too profound, but it was a big learning curve, and I've put things in place now to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Oh, that's really, so is that like a work thing?
Yeah, so I've put things in place, more so boundaries, but also being better at taking my annual leave, which, and I think I probably learnt that from the hectic world of the Middle East as well, because I was just carrying on going, and because the outside world in Dubai is so, it feels like you're on holiday. I didn't think that I needed to take the extra time off to rest.
Interesting.
Whereas, I've come back here, and obviously it rains every day in Manchester, and I don't get that luxury of going to the beach after work. So it's just putting things.
Was that kind of like I can relate a little bit, like a drive in your early career, wanting to really get on?
Yeah, I think
and
so.
then it kind of catches you up a little bit.
Yeah,
as you
proving
get
myself.
older
And I think especially as a woman in sport, you kind of want to prove yourself even more so, because we are the underdog in that sense.
Yeah.
So.
Well, inspiring stuff. Conversely to that, what's been your biggest success, your biggest hit, would you say?
I would say that, and it goes back to the Dubai thing, but I think personally, we changed the way that people shop out there from a sporting goods perspective. So when I joined the business, they didn't have a creative identity. So I came in to build that. And essentially, it was a sports store like other one here, with a mishmash of brands that were, Adi, Nike, Puma.
Yeah.
But the store itself didn't stand for anything. It was just, we sell lots of products.
Yeah.
And we changed it into less brand focused and more functionality. So if you're a runner, then you need this. If you play football, then you need this. And there was, some other associated products that filtered out of that. But we changed the whole store design, and we changed the way we spoke from a communications perspective to our consumer. And it worked. Our numbers went through the roof in comparison to where they were at. It took time. It wasn't an overnight success. I think that's where brands need to play the long game in that sense and have a bit more of a longer term strategy. But the team did a great job of delivering something really special and unique.
So you left on a big
and that's
achievement
why
leaving.
I felt comfortable leaving. I think that I'd left it in a place where someone else could come in and help it grow and take it onto the next level, but I'd done enough to get it to where it needed to be.
Oh, great.
Well, the game I was playing the other day, I was driving through London, and I was, looking at shop windows like your Liberties and your Harry's and all that, and that's all displaying about selling your products. I love the Liberties window, what they do. Have you seen it?
They're amazing, Liberty.
Yeah, and
They're
they
first class. I'd love their budget.
Yeah. They got a good budget. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I did notice the other day going through London, because I talking to my wife about it, because I got that involved in, because I'm a passenger in the car, so obviously I've tried to entertain myself going through London.
Next time, drive past the Puma store on
I'll
the
do
road and
that.
let me know what you think.
Well, Kirsten, Bez has written a question for you.
There you go.
And he's brought his glasses.
gonna be
Yeah, I've got my glasses with me.
Uh,
When launching MPDs to the market, what are the KPIs and how do you measure the ROIs or the ROASs, if you will, or e.g., are they CBC or each NPD launch? If that made any sense.
Did it make sense to you?
Yeah. Well,
Bez wrote that himself.
What is it that Sean says?
Well,
You're twisting my melon, man.
Yeah. Well, if he had BE said on there, would have known what they were talking about.
I will simplify it for you as an answer, hopefully. I'll do a music analogy.
Go on.
So say you're launching your latest album or your latest tour, you're going on tour. You want to measure its success because for next time you want to see what you might have to do differently. First of all, you want to check how many tour tickets you sold or how many albums you sold. And then the next thing is, do those people buy again the next time? Do they want to go and see you again, or do they buy your next album? Or would they potentially buy your next album? And did you spend less money than you did making the campaign, basically? So doing the launch. And if you did, then it's profitable, so it's a success. It's far more detailed than that. There's lots of statistics and things, but that's the kind of simple element of, you want to measure how successful your launch.
Well, and I hear that mentioned a lot in when we're talking about people and the marketing, and it's always looking at your figures. Yeah, what you just said, everything you ran through there is, I found that it's an important part of marketing.
Yeah.
So I get that. And I can see how it's an important...
So I answered it well.
Yeah,
I didn't really understand.
Are you happy with that answer?
Yeah, no, I understand what all them MPIs are all
Yeah,
about.
exactly. Kirsten, do you have any questions or anything for us?
I do have gifts.
Oh, have you?
Us, yeah.
I love gifts. Oh, no way.
Look at this.
Oh, thank you.
It's not even your birthday.
Hey, yes, indeed.
That's some nice packaging.
Oh, look at them. I like them. Very nice.
They go with your outfit today,
And,
actually.
well, you know what? I love me. Set them suede Pumas out. But if you want a pair like this, a mate of mine has just opened a shop in Hereford, believe it or
No
not.
way.
Selling trainers, and he's not selling like your usual brands, you know what I mean? Like some of the Italian stuff. And we've got the German stuff. The suede Puma is in his shop window as we speak. So if you want to buy a pair, Church Street, Hereford, get yourself down there. Puma Kings.
What a plug.
Hey.
Yeah.
But I love them.
I'll send you the check in the post.
Yeah, they're really nice though.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and they will actually go with
they
the
go
rig out.
Yeah.
Coordination
Size
is what
like
we
on you.
need. I like a bit of coordination.
Brilliant. Kirsten, thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thanks
Thank
so
you for the
much. It's been a
shoes.
pleasure.
Bez, thanks again. Like and subscribe and share and do all that sort of stuff. Thank you very much for watching.
Try not to get repaid.
Yeah, it's really it's really unprofessional,
Ruining the vibe.
actually. But thank you for listening. Toodaloo.